Hello everybody, I'm still here, I'm still alive, I promise. I am still a booktuber. I just took the month of January off from filming and editing, and boy was it a needed break. It's kind of funny because currently it's the first week of February and I have not even had a chance to really think about my New Year's resolutions or my reading goals. I just this past weekend had a weekend business retreat where my husband and I sat down for the whole weekend and basically created goals for my editorial business. I'm a freelance book editor if you're new here. And that was like the first time I actually sat down and was like, okay, 2018, let's do this thing. As an introvert, I really need some time to just decompress after travels and the holidays. So I pretty much took like the first half of January just getting back into a groove, into a routine. And then I was slammed with like a million projects. So I just decided not to make YouTube videos for like the whole month, and it was wonderful. But I missed you guys and I missed posting videos on YouTube, and I just missed being active in this community. I haven't watched a lot of other people's videos. Yeah, I've just been kind of absent and I have FOMO right now. So I'm glad to finally be here to talk about my favorite books of 2017. Quick recap, I did read 50 books in 2017. It's funny looking back, I thought that I didn't read that much young adult fiction, and because I read quite a bit of literary fiction, but my top 5 books, there's a lot of young adult in there and middle grade, which is, you know, it says a lot about me as a reader. As much as I love to read outside of young adult as a category, I still seem to love those hard-hitting YA books. They just stick with me, you know? So yes, I read 50 books in 2017, and I actually edited 24 books, I think, in 2017. So I was pretty happy with 50 books for fun. Books that I read for pleasure. So let's just get into my top 5 favorite books of 2017. When I was looking back over Goodreads to see what books I actually read in 2017, I was shocked to see that I actually read The Raven Boys in 2017. I thought I read it sooner than that. But yeah, this was my first glimpse into the Raven Cycle series, and oh my gosh, it's been such a whirlwind. I have one more book to go, The Raven King. And I have just loved every second of it. I feel like I've already talked about this series a lot on my channel, and it's so hyped that I feel like I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the premise, but I will say that the characters are what make this book, in my mind, so good. It's a group of 4 friends, 1 girl and 3 boys, and each of them are just so complex, and as you progress in the series, you get to know each of them a little bit better. But it's got a little bit of magic, it's got a little bit of romance. I really like the family dynamics in here, but mostly it's the friendships. It's just really beautiful. This is the first book I've ever read by Maggie Stiefvater. And yeah, her writing style, I've heard that not everyone connects with it. I think there are some people who just don't enjoy it or maybe don't get sucked in right away by it. Yeah, like I said, I have one more book to go to finish the series, but this was the year, 2017, looking back, was the year that I finally read The Raven Boys, and I'm so glad I did. The next book that I absolutely loved in 2017 was Peace Like a River by Leif Enger, and if Katie from Life Between Words is watching this right now, she's probably like fist pumping or squealing, because she has been trying to get me to read this for a long time, and I finally read it. I was with her at a bookstore in Chicago when I got this book, and I didn't really know anything about it except that she loved it. So we did a buddy read with a few other gals, and it was just so good. It was everything she said it would be and more. I read this around Thanksgiving, and it was just so freaking good. Like one of those instances where you're reading in public and you're just bawling and you just don't care who sees. It's that kind of experience. I've also talked about this one on my channel a lot, obviously, but it's about a little boy named Ruben who's I think 11 years old, and he travels with his father across country with his father and his sister to try to find his outlaw older brother. It's a Midwestern story. It's got some Christian themes in it. It has to do with family and love and miracles, and it's just such a beautiful read. I would say my favorite thing about this book is the narration. If you're into that coming of age story that's beautifully written and just a hard-hitting family story, I think you could really be into this. Definitely pick this up if you haven't read it yet. Another favorite of mine from 2017 was The Mothers by Britt Bennett, and also probably my favorite book cover of all time. It's just so beautiful. I love having it on my shelves, and I'm so glad I enjoyed it. This book I read in January or February of 2017, so the details are a little bit fuzzy, but the impact that this book had on me is still there, still present. And also, I follow Britt Bennett on Twitter, and she's hilarious and amazing. And I just want to be her friend, basically. This book really shocked me because it's a debut author, and her writing is just phenomenal. Like, I will pick up any other book that she writes for sure. Even though this book takes place in, I want to say, California, it had a sort of like a southern, small town gossipy feel to it. But this is another book on female friendship and the stories that we tell ourselves and the secrets that we carry and how those secrets shape our relationships. It's very hard-hitting, very, she has a really amazing way of conveying this sense of loneliness that we feel from time to time in our lives, and the sense of displaced community and what it means to go through tragic loss and how that can shape you and your friendships. This book is about living up to expectation in contemporary Black America. It's about ambition and community and friendship and betrayal. It's just so well written, and I really enjoyed it. Next, I have Marlena by Julie Buntin, and I think this may be my absolute favorite book of 2017. This is another debut author, and I guess you could call it young adult, although it could be literary fiction as well, because it kind of alternates between her 15-year-old voice and her adult voice. I'm jumping ahead of myself. It's about a girl who meets this other girl named Marlena, who they meet when when they're around 15 years old. Marlena actually dies, and that's not a spoiler. You learn that on the very first page. It's about how Marlena dies and the impact that has on the main character. It's about how Kat, the main character, moves on with her life, and a lot of it feels very nostalgic. It feels very reflective. She uses that reflective voice really well. So it almost reads like a memoir, but it is a work of fiction, but it explores really dark themes. There's a sense of dread or despair, equal parts despair and suspense as you're reading. And I just couldn't put it down. I absolutely adored it, and I will definitely pick up anything else Julie Buntin writes. Last but not least, I want to talk about Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I freaking loved this book. This might be my favorite middle grade book other than Harry Potter. It's that good. This is also one of the last books that I read in 2017, which just kind of blows my mind. Like, I have this amazing reading year where I read 50 books, and then one of the last books that I read just happens to be a favorite of mine. This book was breathtaking, it was enchanting, it was whimsical, it was magical. It just kind of checked all of the boxes for me for a good middle grade read. I actually read this book because Monica from She Might Be Monica was raving about it on Twitter, and I knew, because I love a lot of the books that Monica reads, but I knew by her description of this book that I would love it. In a nutshell, it's a story of a cursed child who escapes her death in a magical world, and Morgan Crow is her name, and she is just such a great protagonist. There really are those Harry Potter vibes where you empathize with her, you sympathize with her, you see kind of where she comes from and just the struggles that she faces, and you see the future for her, and you root for her future, even though she doesn't know yet how to do that for herself. She doesn't have the confidence yet for herself. But you kind of see her come into her own, and I think that in the next books in the series, we'll see that even more so. The world of Nevermore, the world building in this book is just incredible. It just makes you never want to put the book down. I really genuinely felt like I had a book hangover after this book for a really long time. And that doesn't happen to me often. It's not often that, even if I enjoy a book, it's not often that I'll put it down after reading it and just be consumed with thoughts about that book for a long time. And I'm still like, I need the second book right now. So those were my top 5 favorite books of 2017. Let me know in a comment down below if you've read them, if you enjoyed them, if they're on your TBR for this year. And now I want to briefly mention 5 books that I want to get to in 2018. And some of these have been on my shelves for a really long time, and I just need to get to them this year. All of them are books that I've wanted to get to, and just I'm excited for them, but for whatever reason I haven't picked them up. I'm not going to get into the summary of each book, but I will just briefly state what they are, so you can let me know in a comment down below if you plan to read them too, or maybe which ones you think I should prioritize. So the first one on my list is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy. I read The Final Empire and loved it, but for whatever reason, I just haven't picked up the second one yet. Even my husband read it before me and loved it, and he's going to probably pick up the third one soon. So I need to get on it. I really need to get on it. Julie from A Girl in a Book and Jess from Jess McGlynn are going to probably watch this and be like, seriously, Molly, why haven't you picked it up yet? And to that, I just have to say, I don't know, something's wrong with me. The next book I really want to pick up in 2018 is Vasa in the Night by Sarah Porter. This is a really strange book, and I don't know a whole lot about it, except that Leigh Bardugo, author of Six of Crows, said that it's a dark, thoroughly modern fairy tale crackling with wit and magical mayhem, which just sounds incredible. I know that it's a retelling of, I want to say, a Russian fairy tale, and that it takes place in Brooklyn, maybe, or like a magical version of Brooklyn. But yeah, all I really know is that it's dark and magical and just kind of enthralling, and I usually love retellings of fairy tales, so I'm hoping that I'll like it. But I have heard from quite a few people who did not enjoy this book at all, or felt like it was just a little bit too out there, a little bit too weird to fully enjoy. I'm hoping that I can dig the weirdness, because oftentimes I can in life and in books, but I don't know. I mean, this cover is so cool. So yeah, we'll see. I'm just not sure about this one, but I do want to get to it in 2018. I also have Americana. I'm so ashamed talking about this because these have been on my TBR for so long. Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She wrote We Should All Be Feminists and a few other books that you've probably heard of. I have heard such good things about this book, and I know that I will love it if I can just pick it up and read it. But yeah, this is a story about race and love and identity. And I think the two characters are from Nigeria, and they one of them moves to America and one of them moves to London, I think. And that's really all I know about this book. I'm excited to get into it. It will happen. Another book I want to read in 2018 is The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the last book, as I mentioned. Still have yet to read this. I've heard from a lot of people that this is their favorite book in the series. So I'm really excited to see how everything wraps up. Obviously can't say much else about this. I've been trying really hard not to read spoilers or, read the back cover or anything like that, but it's gonna be really, really good. I'm excited. And next I have A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. I don't know if you're noticing this trend here of books that have been on my TBR for a while that happen to be in a series. I'm just not the best at finishing series. I think I have commitment issues with books or something, but I loved A Darker Shade of Magic, the first book in this trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. Yeah, right? I have loved the first book in this trilogy so much. It was one of my favorite ever fantasy, young adult fantasy books. It felt like fantasy that was manageable for me. I love fantasy, I really do. I love young adult fantasy, and I love fantasy that's well crafted and strong world building, and really intense characters. But I feel like this book eases you into it in a way that's just great. I don't know, I think it's a good introduction into fantasy if you're not typically a fantasy reader. Lastly, I have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is on my list of books to read in 2018 because it was on my list of books to read in 2017 and I just never got to it, even though I am fairly confident that I will absolutely adore this book. I've heard from quite a few people that it's a little bit slow, but still really great, just kind of slow moving. All I really know is that it's an apocalyptic story about a traveling symphony or a traveling circus of some kind. I have a feeling it's similar to the Night Circus, not in the story, but maybe the writing style? I don't know. You tell me if you've read both of them. Are they similar? I'm not sure if it's an omniscient point of view, but it seems like it kind of zooms out of the story, and that you get to look at a lot of different characters, almost as if you're above it all watching. I don't know if that makes any sense, but let me know if you've read this book and if you loved it, because I really, really want to get to it in 2018. Okay, so those are my top 5 favorite books of 2017 and top 5 books that I want to read in 2018. Hopefully this time next year I will have read them. But leave a comment down below and let me know your top 5 from 2017 that were your favorites and your top 5 that you want to get to in 2018. I would love to know. And also, thanks for sticking around because I am back and I'm excited to keep making videos this year. I have a lot of things planned. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.